Hello everyone and welcome to the show. If you love a good laugh and fancy yourself a bit of an Anglophile, well then, buckle up because you're in for a right treat. We're about to dive headfirst into the wonderful, wacky and sometimes downright weird world of England. We're talking about those quirky traditions, those funny little things that make you scratch your head and say, only in England, eh? From cheese rolling to snail racing, we've got it all. And trust me, you won't believe some of the stuff we've dug up. So before we get this show on the road, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below telling us about your favorite weird and wonderful English thing. We love hearing from you. Now, without further ado, let's get this party started. All right, first up, we're headed over to the rolling hills of Gloucestershire for a tradition that's as old as time itself, or at least a couple of hundred years, which, let's be honest, is pretty much the same thing when you're talking about the English countryside. And what tradition is that, you ask? Well, it's none other than cheese rolling, my friends. That's right, every year a bunch of brave souls gather atop Cooper's Hill to chase a wheel of double Gloucester cheese down a ridiculously steep hill. Now, you might be thinking chasing cheese down a hill. That sounds a bit, well, cheesy, doesn't it? But let me tell you, this is no laughing matter. People train all year for this. They come from far and wide, all vying for the chance to be crowned the cheese-rolling champion. And it's not for the faint of heart, let me tell you. This hill is steep, slippery, and downright dangerous. We're talking bumps, bruises, and the occasional broken bone. But do you think that stops these cheese-loving daredevils? Not a chance. They're off like a shot, tumbling and rolling down the hill after that wheel of cheese. It's a sight to behold, I tell you. A glorious, chaotic mess of limbs, laughter, and of course, cheese. And the best part, the winner actually gets to keep the cheese. Can you imagine the bragging rights, walking into the pub, cheese in hand? Yeah, that's right, I won this, beat out 100 other blokes for it. 100 other. Right, now that we've recovered from the sheer madness that is cheese rolling, let's take a leisurely stroll through the English countryside, shall we? And by leisurely stroll, I mean buckle up, because we're about to enter the wonderfully weird world of English village names. You see, England is a land of history and tradition, and sometimes that history and tradition manifests itself in some rather, shall we say, interesting place names. We're talking about villages with names that'll make you giggle, scratch your head, and maybe even spit out your tea. Don't worry, we'll wait until you've had a chance to put your cuppa down. For example, take the lovely village of Piddletrenthide in Dorset. Yes, you heard me right. Piddletrenthide. Try saying that 5 times fast after a pint or two down the pub. And then there's Scratchy Bottom, also in Dorset. Sounds like the name of a pirate's least favourite trousers, doesn't it? But no, it's a real place. And a rather picturesque one at that, I'm told. And let's not forget about the charming village of Shitterton. Yes, Shitterton. Look, I'm not making this up. It's right there on the map. And apparently the residents are quite fond of their unique village name. They even have a sense of humour about it. Good on them, I say. Now, you might be wondering how on earth these villages ended up with such, peculiar names. Well, it's a long and winding tale that involves ancient languages, local dialects, and probably a few too many pints of ale along the way. But the point is, these strange and silly place names are all part of what makes England so wonderfully unique. They're a reminder of our rich history, our quirky sense of humour, and our ability to laugh at ourselves, even when it comes to the names of the places we call home. So, next time you're feeling a bit down, just remember the good people of Piddletrenthide, Scratchy Bottom and Shitterton, and know that somewhere out there, someone's living their best life in a village with a name that's guaranteed to make you smile. All right, lads and lasses, buckle up for this one. We're off to Congham, a quaint little village in Norfolk where every year they host an event so thrilling, so dramatic, it makes the Grand National look like a donkey derby. I'm talking, of course, about the World Snail Racing Championships. That's right, you heard me correctly. Hundreds of snails all vying for the title of world's fastest gastropod. Now, you might be thinking, snails racing? That's got to be slower than dial-up internet. And you wouldn't be entirely wrong, but trust me, this is edge-of-your-seat stuff. Imagine this, a sea of eager faces, all eyes glued to a circular track. The tension is palpable. Suddenly, a hush falls over the crowd as the starter yells, Ready, steady, slow, and they're off. These little fellas are no Usain Bolt, mind you. We're talking a whole different kind of speed demon here. But that's the beauty of it. It's a true test of endurance, both for the snails and the spectators. You find yourself cheering for these tiny competitors, willing them to cross that finish line. It's a testament to the British spirit, really, finding excitement in the most unexpected places. Now, this isn't some newfangled fad, no, sir. The World Snail Racing Championships has been a beloved tradition since the 1960s. Legend has it, a local chap named Tom Elwes witnessed some snails racing on his garden wall after a spot of rain. Being a true Englishman, he saw an opportunity for a bit of good fun, a chance to bring the community together, and thus the World Snail Racing Championships was born. Word spread faster than a slug on a lettuce patch, and soon enough, people from all corners of the globe were flocking to Congham to witness this spectacle of slow-motion athleticism. I mean, who wouldn't want to say they've seen a snail-crowned champion? It's the kind of story you tell at a pub, pint in hand, and have everyone captivated. Did I ever tell you about the time I saw a snail named Turbo win it all? The best part, it's not just about the glory, my friends. The event raises money for local charities, proving that even the smallest of creatures can make a big difference. Over the years, the World Snail Racing Championships has gained international recognition. We're talking news crews from Japan, documentaries on the Discovery Channel, the whole shebang. It's become a true testament to the power of silliness and the joy of embracing the absurd. These aren't just any snails, mind you. They're athletes, champions in the making. Each one is carefully bred and trained, their shells adorned with racing numbers. They've got their own little training regimens, special diets, the lot. And the names. Oh, the names. From Slyman Cowell to Lewis Hamill's slug, the creativity knows no bounds. It's enough to make you want to grab the nearest garden snail and start training for next year's competition. So, if you ever find yourself in England with a spare afternoon in July, do yourself a favour and head to Congham. You won't regret witnessing this uniquely British event. Just be prepared for things to move at a snail's pace. Literally. Right, let's talk about something truly quintessentially English, something that screams tradition, heritage, and maybe just a touch of what on earth is going on. I'm talking, of course, about Morris dancing. Now, for my American friends across the pond, imagine this. A group of lads decked out in white trousers, colourful sashes, and hats adorned with flowers and ribbons. And the bells! Don't even get me started on the bells. They've got bells on their shins, jingling away with every hop, skip and jump. It's a sight to behold, I tell you. Some might call it a tad eccentric, maybe even a bit bonkers. And you know what? They wouldn't be entirely wrong, but that's the beauty of it, isn't it? It's unapologetically English. A celebration of tradition that's been passed down through generations. Now, the history of Morris dancing is a bit murky, like a good cuppa that's been stewing a bit too long. Some say it dates back to pagan rituals, others claim it originated from medieval street entertainment, but one thing's for sure, it's been around for centuries, evolving and adapting over time, and it's not just some random jig, there's actual choreography involved, specific steps and formations that have been passed down through the ages. We're talking sticks, swords, handkerchiefs, even the occasional rag doll thrown in for good measure. It's a whole production, a spectacle of rhythmic stomping and synchronized bell ringing that's both mesmerizing and slightly terrifying. But don't let the bells and the hankies fool you. There's a real sense of camaraderie amongst Morris dancers. It's a community, a brotherhood, and sisterhood, of course, bound by a shared love of tradition and a healthy dose of good humour. Now, you might stumble upon a Morris dancing troupe unexpectedly. They're known to pop up at festivals, village fetes, even the occasional pub car park. And if you're lucky, they might just invite you to join in. Don't be shy. Give it a go. It's a right laugh. I promise, just be prepared for a few bruised shins and a newfound appreciation for the art of bell ringing. Morris dancing might seem a bit quirky, a bit out there, but that's what makes it so brilliant. It's a celebration of English eccentricity, a reminder that sometimes the best things in life are a little bit silly. So next time you hear the distant sound of bells and see a group of people dressed like they've raided Henry VIII's wardrobe, don't be afraid. Go and embrace the madness. Now, we Brits are known for our love of tradition, our stiff upper lip, and our, shall we say, peculiar sense of humour, and nowhere is this more evident than in our legal system. You see, dear viewers, hidden amongst the usual laws against stealing sweets from babies and kicking puppies, there exists a treasure trove of bizarre and baffling legislation that's still technically in effect today. We're talking laws so ridiculous, so utterly absurd, that you'd swear they were dreamt up after a particularly heavy night on the ale. But I assure you, these are very real laws, passed by Parliament and etched into the annals of British legal history. Take, for example, the law that states it's illegal to die in the Houses of Parliament. Can you imagine you're strolling through the corridors of power, minding your own business, when suddenly, bam, you keel over from a heart attack? Next thing you know, you're being slapped with a fine for breaking the law. It's enough to put you off your afternoon tea, isn't it? And if you thought that was strange, hold on to your monocles because it gets weirder. Did you know that it's illegal to handle a salmon in suspicious circumstances? That's right, you heard me correctly. Now, what exactly constitutes suspicious circumstances when it comes to salmon is anyone's guess. Are we talking about wearing a striped balaclava and stuffing a salmon down your trousers? Or perhaps attempting to pay for your groceries with a particularly large salmon? The law doesn't specify, leaving it open to interpretation. So, if you ever find yourself in possession of a salmon in England, I suggest you handle it with extreme caution. You wouldn't want to end up in the clink for a fishy misdemeanor, would you? And the absurdity doesn't stop there. Apparently it's also against the law to be drunk and in charge of a cow. Now, I'm not sure how often this particular law is broken, but it does paint a rather amusing mental picture. I imagine it involves a pub crawl gone wrong, a farmer who's had one too many pints, and a very confused cow being led astray. It's the stuff of legends, really. These strange and wonderful laws are a testament to the enduring quirkiness of English culture. They're a reminder that sometimes the best way to deal with life's absurdities is to embrace them with a good chuckle. So, the next time you're feeling down, just remember these bizarre laws and take comfort in the fact that at least you're not facing charges for impersonating a Chelsea pensioner or failing to notify the authorities of a plague of locusts. All right, mates, buckle up because we're off to Wales, a land known for its stunning scenery, singing voices that could shatter glass, and you guessed it, bog snorkeling. Now, I know what you're thinking. James, bog snorkeling? That sounds about as appealing as a week-old tuna sandwich. And you know what? You might not be entirely wrong. See, bog snorkeling involves diving headfirst into a murky, peat-filled trench and swimming. Well, swimming might be a generous term. It's more like flailing about like a right plonker trying to find the other end. Don't get me wrong, it's not for the faint of heart or those who value their sense of smell, but it's become a rite of passage in Wales. Every year, hundreds of brave souls, or maybe just those who lost a bet, descend upon the bog, armed with their snorkels and a healthy dose of what am I doing with my life. They come from all walks of life, these bog snorkelers, from seasoned athletes to your nan's next-door neighbour who thought it'd be a laugh. And you know what? Good on them. It's this kind of eccentric spirit that makes the UK so bloody brilliant. Now, you might think that bog snorkeling is just a free-for-all, a chaotic splash in the mud. But my friends, there are rules. Yes, even in the depths of a Welsh bog, order must prevail. First things first, no flippers allowed. It's all about using your raw, unadulterated bog swimming skills or lack thereof. And don't even think about taking a cheeky breath of air before you reach the finish line. You've got to complete the course in full snorkel gear, embracing the, shall we say, unique aroma of the bog. The course itself is a masterpiece of bog engineering, a watery trench carved out of the peat, just waiting to swallow unsuspecting participants whole. And the best part? There's a world championship. That's right, folks, the best of the best, the creme de la creme of bog snorkelers, gather every year to determine who can conquer the bog with the most grace or at least the least amount of drowning. It's a sight to behold, let me tell you. The cheers of the crowd, the splashing of mud, the faint whiff of despair, it's enough to bring a tear to your eye. But in all seriousness, bog snorkeling, as bonkers as it sounds, embodies that wonderful British spirit of embracing the absurd, of finding joy in the most unexpected places. It's a celebration of silliness, of letting loose and getting a bit muddy. And isn't that what life's all about? So, if you ever find yourself in Wales with an afternoon to spare and a sudden urge to become one with the bog, why not give it a go? Just maybe pack a change of clothes, yeah? And maybe some air freshener for the car ride home. Trust me on that one. Right, on to the next wonderfully weird British thing. You lot ready for this? I reckon you're not. Right then, you lot. Let's talk about something truly sacred, something deeply ingrained in the British psyche. No, not tea, although that's a close second. I'm talking about the noble art of queuing. Now, I know what you're thinking. Queuing, seriously, that's what you're choosing to highlight about Britain, but hear me out, because queuing, my friends, is not just standing in line. It's a way of life. It's a testament to our patience, our sense of fair play, our unwavering belief that no matter what, the person who's been waiting the longest deserves to be served first. You see a queue forming in Britain, you don't ask questions, you just join the back. It's like a reflex ingrained in our DNA since birth. It's the British way. We queue for everything, buses, shops, the loo, you name it. We even queue when there's no actual need to, just because it feels right, you know? It's like a comforting dance, a silent understanding that we're all in this together, waiting our turn, not rocking the boat. Now, there's a certain etiquette to queuing, an unspoken code of conduct that must be followed at all costs. First and foremost, never, and I mean never, jump the queue. That's a cardinal sin, my friends. You might as well wear a sign saying, "I kick puppies," because that's the level of social suicide you're committing. Maintain a respectful distance from the person in front of you. No one likes a close talker, especially in a queue. Give each other some breathing room, for goodness sake. And for the love of all that is holy, be prepared when it's your turn. Don't get to the front of the queue, and then start rummaging through your bag for your wallet. Have your payment ready, know what you want. Be a model citizen of the queue. A well-executed queue is a thing of beauty, a symphony of order and efficiency. It's a testament to our collective ability to function as a society without descending into utter chaos. So, the next time you find yourself in Britain surrounded by a queue that seems to stretch on longer than a motorway at rush hour, don't despair. Embrace it. Embrace the quiet camaraderie, the shared experience, the knowledge that eventually your turn will come. It's just part of the charm, innit? Right, on to the next bizarrely brilliant thing about England. And trust me, this one's a real corker. Because we're about to dive headfirst into the wonderfully weird world of nettle eating. Now, I know what you're thinking. Nettles? Those prickly little blighters that leave you covered in itchy welts? You want people to eat those? Well, my friends, in the fine county of Dorset, they don't just eat nettles, they celebrate them. Every year, brave souls, and let's be honest, probably a few who've had a few too many pints down the pub, gather for the World Nettle Eating Championships. The rules are simple. Consume as many stinging nettles as humanly possible within an hour. No, you heard that right, an hour. Now, I don't know about you, but the thought of even touching a nettle, let alone stuffing my face with them, makes my skin crawl. But these folks, they're made of sterner stuff. They go at it with gusto, their faces contorted in a mixture of pain and grim determination. It's a sight to behold, let me tell you. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth do they do it? How do they withstand the pain of thousands of tiny needles stabbing their mouths? Well, apparently there's a technique to it. Some folks say rolling the leaves up helps. Others swear by washing them down with copious amounts of beer. And then there are those who just go for it, embracing the sting, the numbness, the sheer madness of it all. The competition is fierce, with seasoned veterans battling it out for the coveted title of Nettle King or Queen. It's a battle of wills, a test of endurance, and quite possibly a sign that someone spiked the water supply with something a bit strong. But you know what? There's something strangely admirable about it, this willingness to embrace the uncomfortable, the painful, the downright bizarre. It's what makes Britain so unique, so utterly bonkers, so bloody brilliant. So if you're ever feeling brave or just fancy witnessing a truly unique spectacle, why not head down to Dorset for the Nettle Eating Championships? Just, maybe pack some antihistamines, yeah? And maybe a hazmat suit. You can never be too careful. Right. On to the next wonderfully weird thing about England. And believe me, we're just getting started. All right, mates, buckle up for this one. Worm charming. You heard right. Forget whispering sweet nothings to your love in Williston. They whisper to worms. Can you imagine? Hundreds of people all gathered in a field trying to coax worms out of the ground. It's like a scene out of a Monty Python sketch, but it's real, it's brilliant, and it's absolutely bonkers. Now, you might be thinking, James, how in the world do you charm a worm? Well, my friend, that's the real question, isn't it? Some folks stomp their feet, others play music, and some even resort to, wait for it, vibrating garden forks. Vibrating garden forks, people. You can't make this stuff up. But worms, apparently, they're a different story. It's all about finding the right frequency, the right vibration, the right tune. Who knows, maybe we've been singing to the wrong species all along. Imagine if this caught on globally, eh? Honey, grab the tuba. The worms are feeling neglected. It'd be a symphony of slithering, a veritable conga line of creepy crawlies. Apparently, it's all about finesse, about persuasion, about, well, charming them out. They have a designated charmer, a patch of land and a strict time limit. It's all very official, very serious. They even count the little blighters afterward. Can you imagine the scorecard? Right, Brenda, you've got yourself a solid 17 worms. Not bad, not bad. But Dave over there, he's pulled in a whopping 32. I tell you, the pressure must be immense. You're there, fork in hand, desperately humming your best rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody, hoping against hope that those worms are feeling the groove. It's enough to make anyone sweat. I often wonder what the worms make of it all, just minding their own business, munching on some dirt, when suddenly, bam! They probably have worm therapy sessions after this. It's quintessentially British, this slightly eccentric, utterly charming, and completely baffling tradition. It's like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it, but you can't deny it's unique. And that's what we love about the Brits, isn't it? They're not afraid to embrace the weird, the wonderful, and the downright wacky. They're a nation of animal lovers, tea drinkers, and apparently worm charmers. So next time you're feeling a bit down, a bit bored, remember the good people of Williston. Remember their dedication, their passion, their unwavering belief in the power of worm charming. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, you'll be inspired to try it yourself. Just don't blame me if you end up with a garden full of earthworms doing the Macarena. Right, let's talk about towns with a sense of humour, or perhaps a lack thereof. We've got dull in Scotland and boring in Oregon, USA. Yes, you heard that right, dull and boring. They sound like rejected names for a superhero duo, don't they? Come on, dull, let's go. Boring, activate your powers of, well, boring. Now, you might think these towns live up to their names, but let me tell you, folks, they're anything but. Dull, nestled in the Scottish Highlands, is anything but dull. It's got history, charm, and scenery that'll knock your socks off. And boring, well, it's actually quite lovely. Surrounded by forests and mountains, it's a nature lover's paradise. But here's the kicker. These two towns, separated by thousands of miles, decided to become sister cities. Can you imagine the town council meetings? Right, we need to spice things up a bit. I've got it. Let's partner with a town called Boring. Genius, pure genius. The best part is, this unlikely partnership has brought these two towns together in the most delightful way. They've got festivals, events, and even a joint tourism campaign. Who wouldn't want to visit the anything but dull and boring trail, eh? It's brilliant. I can just imagine the locals now, swapping stories about their ironically named towns. Oh, you think you've got it bad? Try living in a place called Dull, although I hear boring's got its moments. It's like a comedy sketch waiting to happen, and the best part is it proves that sometimes the most unexpected pairings can be the most successful. It's like a good marriage, innit? Opposites attract and all that. Dull and boring, together at last, proving that even the most ordinary sounding places can have an extraordinary story to tell. So there you have it, folks, a tale of two towns united by their wonderfully absurd names. It just goes to show, doesn't it? Sometimes you've got to embrace the ridiculous, the silly, the downright bizarre. Life's too short to take everything seriously, isn't it? So next time you're feeling a bit down, remember dull and boring. Remember that even in the most unexpected places, you can find humor, camaraderie, and a whole lot of heart. And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to visit them yourself. Just don't tell them I sent you. They might think it's a bit, well, dull. Well, there you have it, folks. 25 of the funniest and strangest things about England. From cheese rolling to worm charming, bog snorkeling to nettle eating, England's got it all. It's a land of eccentricities, traditions, and a whole lot of laughter. And frankly, who doesn't love a good laugh, eh? I hope you've enjoyed this little jaunt through the weird and wonderful world of English customs. If you did, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, leave a comment down below with your favorite quirky English thing, and subscribe to the channel for more hilarious content. Until next time, cheerio and pip pip. And remember, if you ever find yourself handling a salmon suspiciously, you've only got yourself to blame. Thanks for watching, European vacation seekers. We hope you enjoyed this delightful dive into the quirky and comedic side of England. From the rolling hills of Gloucestershire to the peculiar village names, and all the way to the eccentric competitions and traditions, England is truly a place like no other. If you're planning your next European adventure, don't forget to add these fun-filled destinations to your itinerary, and remember, there's always more to explore and laugh about. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for more travel fun, and we'll see you on our next adventure. Until then, keep exploring and keep smiling.